This is a science meets art wrapped in mystery with an enigma and a crystal ball bouncing in the background. It's better to pass than do a bad deal. Better to pass than do a bad deal. We can wait. We have 10 years. It doesn't help a lot when you're sitting around the board table and a VC says, well, I think we need to increase revenue and decrease expenses. Oh, really? Thank you. I'm going to write that one down. Brilliant. It's do the milestones that get us to Series A. Then, when we get it, get rid of all the things you were working on. Stop. This is the ARR bandwidth you need to get to on your seed money, on your Series A money, and lose money on every deal. That's okay. For the first 6 slides, thought it was a joke. I just visited a company last week that is working on microreactors to provide atomic energy for data centers. Hardware is hot again. That's the future of manufacturing in the US, not stamping out rubber ducks, 10,000 units per day. So, you want to get hit by a train? Lay on the track.
Welcome to The Diligent Observer, the first podcast exclusively focused on helping angels see what others missed. I'm your host, Andrew, and every week we explore what works, what doesn't, and why through conversations with experienced startup investors and operators.
Today, I'm replaying one of my favorite episodes. My guest is Larry Warnock, founding partner of Ring Ventures, former CEO of multiple successful startups, and veteran with 70 plus investments. And in this conversation, Larry breaks down his 3 T's framework, explains why he always bets on founders over ideas, and shares the craziest pitch that he's ever received, a plan to bring back the woolly mammoth. I hope you enjoy learning from Larry as much as I did. Larry, thank you for being with me today.
Hey, Andrew. Good morning to you.
I am very, very honored to have this time. So first of all, thank you for making the time. Look forward to sharing and just seeing where we go with the conversation. The first thing I wanted to ask you about, Larry, I've heard you now speak on this several times, and you have a really simple framework for evaluating investment opportunities. It's 3 pieces to it. I wonder if you could talk through that framework and then how you developed that framework.
Good. Yeah, a great memory, Andrew. And thanks what you do for the investment community. This is helpful. So my framework is sort of the 3 T's. And I say TAM, tech, team. So let me explain each one of those and then talk about the priority, because those are not necessarily in priority order. So the TAM is the market big enough, the total addressable market, for what they're doing, that if they were to gain 50% market share, would it be that interesting? Very few companies get 50%, but the market itself has to be big enough. So I, as an investor, and other investors should look at how big is the target they're going after. And that has to kind of hit a threshold. Next is the second T, which is tech, or the technology. This is the offering, even if it's a service offering. Does it work? Is it interesting? Do the target audience believe it's interesting? And that's really, really important. And investors need to kind of ask a question. Is this an aspirin or a vitamin? An aspirin solves a pain. A vitamin helps you for the future with a positive. Both are good investments, but it will really guide how urgent a customer will put this in their stack of priorities. So the tech has to be viable, has to be work, it has to be modern. And then finally, it's the team. Is this founder or founders capable of addressing this problem in this market? Do they know this market? Have they been in this market? Is it just a dream of theirs, or is this something they bring as far as credibility and background? Also, personality traits. Do they have the ability to listen and to see the tea leaves and adjust? Because adjustment always happens. Even when I was an operator, as a VP and a CEO, what we ultimately got acquired on or went public on was not exactly what we started with. So it evolves, and you've got to understand if the founders and the team has the ability to evolve, take guidance, and not be so stubborn. Now, they can believe in their mission and their vision, but much like a running back has to cut and jig and jag and The objective is always get into the end zone, but sometimes it's, double back and run back around behind the quarterback and go up the right side. Can the team do that? And if they can't, do they have the ability to recruit a team around them that could? So those are my 3 high-level criteria, and team is the most important for me. If I look back over all of my successes and failures, and I've had them both, the team was the more critical factor on the success or, quite frankly, on the failure. So TAM, tech, team.
Why is that you feel like the team so clearly was the critical factor? Like I hear that a lot. There's the eternal debate: is it market or is it the team? Which is more important? Which would you rather have? But you seem pretty sold on the team aspect. Why is it that you think that element is so important? And then maybe as a follow-on, how do you suss out this ability to pivot? It's very squishy, perhaps in a limited conversation set. So 2 questions. Why is the team so important? And then 2, how do you suss out the ability to pivot?
Sure. Great businesses become great business because of execution. It's very rarely the idea. And very rarely will this tech be the only one in the market. If you're the only one doing it, you might take pause. It's like, wait a second. Why is no one else doing this? Because once some momentum happens, it will attract competitors. And that's okay. Competition is good. It keeps you focused. But it's really about business execution. And business execution is a result of human factors. It's the ability to stay organized. It's the ability to set a plan, to adjust a plan. So because business execution is what takes a great idea to a great company, execution is a function of the team. Period. Stop. The best tech doesn't always win. A great example I like to give, operating systems for PCs, Windows before the Apple dominance was the dominant operating system. Okay. Well, when people got a blue screen of death and had to reboot it, once a week. Okay. The operating system they put on the Mars Rover has never been rebooted. It just keeps going. So the best doesn't win, evidently, or always. And so Microsoft was a machine because of merchandising and marketing. They out-executed everybody. And then Apple beat them at their own game with design added to that element and ease of use. So not to ramble, but team is most important because execution defines a great business, and that's singularly influenced by the team in place. I do want to comment on, the second thing. So I get the word pivot and I use it in sentences all the time, but pivot to me sounds too dramatic. It's really adjusting and zigging and going a little bit left, a little bit right, like that. For all of your viewers, think about a running back making it through the line or deciding to go around the end in a football game. How do you suss that out, as you said? Ask for examples of what this person's done in their past. As an investor, meet them as early as you can and then watch them. Do they do what they say they're going to do? I think the latest stat from meet to first check is 6 months. So over those 6 months before you as an angel or a venture firm, what do they say they're going to do? And what happens when it doesn't go exactly as planned? Do they panic? Do they give up? Do they just hit the brick wall? We're just going to hit it harder. Do they adjust? So time and understanding how this team or this founder will adjust to problems and changes is how you suss it out.
Larry, I'm curious, have you ever passed on an opportunity because you weren't impressed by the team or the founder? You didn't feel like they had that capacity that then ultimately turned out to be a huge miss? Like, have you ever had that experience?
I have, but I've got pretty good instincts on the team. I've absolutely made mistakes. We've invested in things that didn't pan out. We missed investments that became wildly successful. But usually the miss, for me personally, has been misunderstanding or not being able to grasp the tech and the TAM, not the team. The team is, for me, is the easiest to understand because you have an ability to interact. How would you have ever drawn the TAM for the iPhone? It didn't exist. Like, whoa, wait a second. So it's a computer, it's a camera, it's a phone. It's at apps. What is that TAM? Well, the TAM is planet Earth, every man, woman, and child. But that would have been irrational before it was shipped for you to use that TAM. So you had to have the vision that that tech could address the TAM. So if I look back at the misses or investments that we made and it didn't pan out, or investments we didn't make, it's usually not having a good grasp or not predicting what happens to the tech in the TAM, not the people.
It's really interesting because I feel like that's the piece that is often the difference maker, right? How does the market ultimately evolve? And we're looking at market making opportunities.
Let me interrupt you and give you an example.
Yeah, please.
Okay. I knew of Slack when it started. Totally missed that this company, which by the way was a gaming company that had a messaging app inside of their game, and the games were not popular. They weren't getting a lot of use of the games. It's a multiplayer game, and so they had this utility that lets you smack talk between other players and, hey, what about this? Where's the golden orb? How do I get into this cave? Or shoot this bad guy, whatever. And so their investors decided to get rid of the games and just focus on the messaging layer. And then the messaging layer rolled out and they gave it away for free and it went viral. And I knew about this. I didn't have a chance to invest, but if I had, I probably wouldn't have. Had nothing to do with the team. It's that I didn't see that messaging would replace email. Okay. It really has for your generation and younger. It's the de facto way to get into groups and to communicate. Then I didn't realize that the messaging really was, once it replaced email, would become a fundamental platform, not only for people to communicate, for apps to communicate. And then Salesforce acquired them for billions of dollars, added it because it's a communication layer also for their data platform. Is Slack talks to apps and enters data and gets data out, hands it to people. I didn't see that. Okay. The team is a great team, I'm sure, but that would have been a TAM and tech miss because it pivoted, it changed. So if I had a chance to view it, it would have been a gaming company with mediocre games with a cool way to chat with people playing them. Okay. Probably wouldn't have invested in that. But things changed and the team was able to adjust. Pretty big adjustment. You're no longer, mentor when your board comes to you and says, we're out of the gaming business. Like, what? I'm a gamer. This is why I did this. We're going to focus on the messaging. Like, what? Who needs that? Don't people already message? Don't people already email? So the team was able to take advantage and bring this quantumly better messaging platform, just like Zoom. And, everybody thought video conferencing was over. There were already 4 or 5 solutions. They did it better. The deals I've missed have been not being able to have the foresight of where it could go, not just where it goes.
I feel like that's such a nuanced thing because even as you're talking through it, you look back, you still would have passed most likely based on what you just described. How do you?
Well, and I'll tell you what, I never met the team. If I had met the team, I'm going, holy crap. I'll give you an example of a company like that. So I have an investment in a company called Proxy. They're out of Seattle, Washington. 2 female founders. They would be appalled if they heard this, but they're really struggling with their current platform and getting true product market fit. But they are rock stars. So we invested in them because maybe this one won't work, but whatever they do next will or might. And I want to stay close to them. They'll probably figure it out for Proxy. They started with a consumer model. Now they have the business to business model and they're working it through and it's tough, but I invested because of the 2 of them. And if this doesn't pan out, okay, we'll write off that investment. But when they come knocking for the next one, no question, I'd invest.
Say more about how you see angels effectively build those relationships and assess that kind of thing. Because I think from a venture perspective, when you're writing $1 million check, you're going to lead around. There's a much deeper relationship that's naturally built compared to an angel who might be writing a $25,000 check. how, in your experience, have you seen angels successfully build these relationships and do the best they can with the limited power that they have in the conversation?
Right. Well, because it's all, whether for a VC or an angel, it's all about deal flow. What are you getting eyes on? Because I think of some of the biggest successes that I missed them because I never knew about them. Okay. That happens to venture firms too, by the way. So angels on the line, don't worry. It's not only you. Um, I think angels, personal opinion, should focus on an area or a market that they know something about. And in that process, when they hear rumblings that there's a new idea or a founder, reach out and offer assistance because they know something about the space. They're targeting oil and gas companies. They're targeting industrial manufacturing. It's software. They may not know about software, but they know about insurance, and insurance is one of the markets. So I think one of the biggest values angels bring is domain expertise as well as money. And then join the angel networks. I'm a huge, huge fan of angel networks. That may be popular with your viewers or may not, because you're going to see so much more deal flow. And you're also going to see the deals that the angel networks don't even look at. You can ask to see the throwaways, and one of them might get your attention. So it takes you from seeing a deal a quarter to seeing 10. And if you take all the applicants that were turned down, 20. And so it's really a numbers game. And then, as I mentioned earlier, it takes time. So meet these founders early and then add value, not just your check, but add value. If all it is introductions, let's say you don't know anything about maritime, software that tracks maritime shipping, and you don't know any shipping. But, if you're an angel, you've probably got a whole career behind you. Somebody in your LinkedIn network knows about that industry. Make an introduction.
So it sounds like the value add piece is really something that you've seen successful angels lean into, and perhaps unsuccessful angels fail to engage as much.
Yeah, and one of the reasons for that is, and is kind of one of the misnomers of VCs. So VCs manage a portfolio, not a company. Okay. And so you've got to have diversification for a portfolio to work. For an angel investor, diversification is really difficult because it's expensive. Therefore, the diversification should come from the number of the deals you look at. If you write a check and you've only looked at 4 deals, the red lights would go off in my head. That's not a diversified approach. And it's tough to be diversified. And that's where the angel networks can help you, because you can watch and you can share your ideas and see what other things. There is value in other people's opinion. But VCs manage a portfolio, and I can't remember the exact number, but for a portfolio to truly be diversified, it must have at least 11 investments in it. Very few angels have 11 investments. So it's highly risky. So do something that you know. If they're targeting oil and gas and you spent 25 years in oil and gas, that should go up in the level of interest for you as an angel.
So most of your experience has been kind of on the venture side, in addition to serving as an operator in the CEO seat in a number of companies. I'm curious to just hear the perspective on how does venture broadly, and then maybe in your specific experience, think about the angel investor's role in the ecosystem, because there are very mixed opinions about angels. And I'm curious if you could kind of talk through your perspective on that.
Yeah, Andrew, good question. Most of them, I think, are misconceptions, but and I'll tell you why in a second. But VCs, from what I've experienced, aren't against angels at all. It's part of the ecosystem and it fills in a gap. Okay. What VCs do not like is a jacked up cap table. So angels, be careful. You don't do funny, crazy things that are out of the ordinary to the cap table. Okay. Invest, get your preferred shares, but don't do these side letters where you get 5 points of common because you're going to help them. Well, you're not an employee, so you can't be fired. And so the VC is like, wait a minute, this person has 5 points of common, but we can't fire them. We can't if they're not doing their job. So funny deals where there's some side stock that's common because I'm going to help you when I give you a Rolodex. Well, okay, that's what you get with your preferred shares is the obligation to help them. Okay. So VCs don't like jacked up cap tables, which is why angels should do safes all day long because it's so simple. It's so easy. Every VC understands it. They understand that there's been a premium's been given for the risk that the angel took and that it's easy to calculate. It's right there. They understand it and it's not crazy. I think VCs like what angels do for the early stage. What I would say, though, and I hope this isn't controversial for the angels that will be viewing this, founders should meet VCs early, even when it's just PowerPoint, because they'll eventually need them if they want more capital at the A or the B. And it takes, as we just talked about, 6 months before you write a check, and you'll get feedback. And it might be very clear from interacting with venture firms that you're not ready. And then you ask them, why aren't I ready? And then use the angel money to fill that hole, to get ready for what the venture needs. But, deal flow has shrunk. Deal pricing has come down. That's good for investors. But because of that, a lot of venture firms are writing 50, 100K checks to very super early seed stage opportunities. So a founder should meet VCs, even if they want to take angel money, that's fine. What they'll find is that they'll take angel money because maybe they're not ready and then find angels that bring value besides just the check, is my opinion.
Say more about the weird cap tables. Like, what are the other examples of weirdness that would cause a VC to turn up their nose?
Angel comes in, but they also want to be considered a founder, so they get, the value of their investment in preferred, and then I kind of alluded to this. Then they also get 10 points because they're kind of a founder, but they're not really working at it each and every day. And then a venture capital firm comes in and says, they have a model. They have to get X percent at the seed stage, at the A, at the B. They calculate dilution into it. So it's when they end up after a Series C, they have X percent of the company. And if you got 10 points allocated to this person that's not really day in, day out helping the business, the VC is going to go, well, I could force them out or make them sell my shares, but now I've started the relationship with contention. Life's too short. We pass. We don't want to be known as that VC that's kicking people out of companies. It's just, there's 2 other deals. So do a safe. And if you're an investor, you're an investor. Help because you're an investor. Don't do these side letters and start digging into the cap table because shipping. Okay. Then write your check, get your preferred share, and then help them because shipping. Don't do these strange things because when a VC sees that, it's just difficult to unwind that. Because remember, a VC has to do the math, because remember, they have a portfolio of what happens if something goes bad. And most of the conditions in a term sheet and documents are for the negative condition, not the positive. So preference overhang, drag along rights, converting preferred to common if they don't step up. These are all when things go bad. Okay, so don't give a VC, as an angel, don't give a VC an opportunity to look at all the onerous things they're going to have to put on it, the deal, if it goes bad. Just keep it simple. A simple safe note, and then coach your angel invested founder. Great. You just closed the seed round with angel money. Next week, you're meeting VCs. Oh, we don't need it yet. Yeah, you do. You're always as a CEO. I've been a CEO. You're always raising money forever. Doesn't matter how big you are. So get out there and start meeting those VCs to get ready.
Larry, I think that's such an important point, because the whole point of the side letters and these extra terms are to increase the upside and reduce the downside for the angel, and all of this energy ultimately ends up shooting the company in the foot before they even get out into the world.
Right. Because Andrew, as you know, you're smart, and I watched you build, your career and what you've done. The last term sheet in defines everything. So if the VC looks at the structure and says, "Oh my God, we've got to change all that," then they have to measure in their head, well, okay, that's going to piss a bunch of people off. Do we really want to start this relationship with pissed off angels and pissed off founders? And the answer is no. It's easier to pass. It's a great venture investor from way back in the day at Austin Ventures once told me, because I didn't get this. Before I got into venture, I was an operator. Okay. And operators don't get to pass on anything. The problem is in front of you and you have to solve it. You can't say, I choose not to. I'm going to opt out of that problem. As an operator and having to execute, every problem you get has to be solved. And so when I went into venture, I looked at every deal and I said to myself, well, we could fix that. This is a little bit wrong. Their messaging is not good, but we could adjust it, because as an operator, I never got to pass. You always had to fix whatever you got. And many times as an operator, I was brought as an executive to a cat hairball that was all jacked up and I had to fix it. And I willingly signed up for that. As a VC, you can pass. And a VC who I have a tremendous amount of respect for told me when I made that transition into venture, it's better to pass than do a bad deal. Better to pass than do a bad deal. We can wait. We have 10 years. We have 5 years to deploy the money and 5 years to watch it grow. We don't have to deploy it all this month. And as an operator, and most of your angels are probably operators, it's all about, oh, we can fix it. Well, for venture firms, if it's got hair on it or it's a mess, it's easier just to pass than dive in and try to unwind that mess. So kind of in summary, because we kind of talked a lot about this topic, angels, keep the cap table clean. Don't do anything too fancy. Don't overthink the market, and stick with safes. You get an upside of typically 20% for taking that extra risk when it's priced. There's not enough information to price the round anyway, so it'd be futile to try. They haven't even finished the product or made it. So you don't know if the tech works in the TAM. So you're going to set the price how? So the fact that there's convertible notes and safes, I'm a huge fan of that for angels.
Well, Larry, I'd love to hear more about some of the specific deals in your experience that you either passed on or that you went in on. And maybe if you could talk through kind of how you leveraged your 3 T's in each of those scenarios. What are some of the more interesting or crazy deals that you've been pitched?
Yeah. So I kind of 3 categories. I'm going to talk about ones that we didn't do, we missed out on, ones that I did, and then I got a good story for the craziest deal ever, which we ended up not doing. Time will tell if it was the right decision or not. So first of all, a venture capital investor and an angel should not use regret as a measure. This is a science meets art wrapped in mystery with an enigma and a crystal ball bouncing in the background. It's not an exact science. I often tell people that, if it was so easy to predict where it's going, the company would get money from Wells Fargo Bank. So it's inherently risky and unknown. So you can't have regrets, because you'll win some, you lose some, you make the best decision you can. And if you have a portfolio, you then manage the portfolio for that risk. You take some wild ass bets. Imagine when Elon Musk first told people, yeah, I'm going to build a rocket and we're going to go to Mars. And in the meantime, I'm going to make a ton of revenue delivering food to the space station and then bringing garbage back. And oh, by the way, on the way to the space station, I'll shoot out some little satellites to offer Starlink service to homeowners to get broadband to rural areas. You're like, really? Good luck with that. You don't know what's going to happen. So you're going to miss out some things. So let me tell you about a couple I missed and then, lessons learned and also ones that we did do. So I tried for a long time to get into a local Austin company called Icon, which is 3D printing houses. And the rounds were oversubscribed every time and never got in. And I think they're going to be a really big deal. They've since won contracts to build structures on the moon and do all kinds of stuff. They might have to shift and jive and pivot a bit, but built a relationship with one of the founders there, but didn't get in early enough and just kept missing out as every time that a round opened, it was oversubscribed. So, I'm still hanging out there, and that's kind of the message is you may not get in the first round, but maybe you'll get in the third. Of course, the pricing changes substantially. But that was one that I was enamored with the team. I liked the tech, and I liked the TAM. Missed that one. Another one we missed is a company called Stacklit. It is an open source piece of software. And again, I liked the team, but I miscalculated the TAM and the tech because after we passed, they pivoted. And when they pivoted to is actually working. And if I'd gone back to my formula, I should have been more true to saying this dude will figure it out. But I didn't. I overthought. And so the founder's a great guy, Travis, and he's doing wonderful things. But again, the TAM, the tech often changes. So I missed that one.
I just think that's so common where an angel will go, I don't get the idea, and they just walk away without spending time with the founder.
Exactly. And again, I'm kind of even flogging myself here. My message is I was so impressed by the team. I should have just ignored the TAM because they were there, but I overthought it. And, and by the way, sometimes it doesn't work. This isn't perfect, but the TAM and the tech is going to change. It just does.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was a deal that we ultimately got into. And so my message here is stick to it. Their early seed round, tried to get in it. It was oversubscribed. We couldn't get in. The Series A, we couldn't get in it. And then they did a bridge round, sort of a convertible note that would price it the following round. And we were able to wedge ourselves in, mainly because the founder who had built a relationship and had made some introductions for him and was helping where I could, free of charge, wasn't asking for anything. I think he felt sorry for me. He's like, God, Larry, we've said no to you 3 times. You've been so helpful. Thanks. I think we can let you participate in the note if you'll agree to the terms. You can't change them. The terms are the terms. Someone else is leading it. And so we were eventually able to get in. It was called Starfish Space. And they're out of Seattle. It's got a founder from A&M as well as a founder from Stanford. And they're building an autonomous space tug. This is a small little device that orbits Earth and will sneak up onto a satellite, grab it with this new technology with like a net or fingers, like a squid fingers or something. They actually call it cephalopod, interestingly enough, and nudge it back into the correct orbit so that the satellite doesn't fall to the sky. So huge value proposition. If you have satellites, you don't want them falling. They eventually unless you keep refueling, and refueling a satellite's really hard. So unless you keep nudging it up, it's eventually going to fall into the ocean. So we loved the idea. We loved what they're doing, loved the team, and I couldn't get in. And but I stuck to it. And eventually they did let us in and we got good terms, and they've since have added capability. For instance, as they grew, because we would have never seen this and they weren't articulating it, they're now not only going to deploy these fingers to grab a satellite and move it up, but they've got this new net technology to collect space junk, ball it up, drop it into the Indian Ocean. that's huge, because if that space junk hits a commercial or defense satellite, it's a really big deal. So that was never in the story. So again, tech to the TAM, squishy. Person, 100%. I watched these founders over the course of 2 years execute. It's like, whoa. And I just kept chasing them, and they finally let us in.
And I'm hearing you speak in that, again, to the importance of value add, give first, right? Contribute. You have to earn your way into the best opportunities.
Right. Right. Another couple examples, and stop me if I start to drone on. I wasn't responsible for the investing in it, but I first didn't see it. Eventually it did, but I was at the firm that invested, but it wasn't my deal. And it became game changer in the economy. And I think back, if it had been singularly my decision, I would have probably passed. And that would have been a mistake. And that is a company called HomeAway here in Austin, Texas. And HomeAway was funded as a roll-up, almost looked like a private equity deal, to go buy home listings for rent, vacation rentals by markets. So they went and saw who's rents the most in Hawaii, buy that company. Who most rents the most in the U.S. Virgin Islands, rent that. Who rents the most in Florida? Who rents the most in foliage country and Maine? And they took a bunch of capital and bought all these companies and made a common platform. Well, you know your history. HomeAway merged with VRBO. VRBO was acquired by Expedia. Huge financial impact. But the first story about taking $230 million to buy mom and pop operations around the world, I don't know if I would have done it. And I know the VC that did do it, and if you were to interview him, he would say it was because of the guy, the team. We didn't know if that was gonna work, but we knew he would make it work. Because interesting story, when they originally pitched, because I was in the early pitch meeting, it wasn't to rent the homes, it was to buy them. They were gonna make a fractional ownership play where they would go buy all these vacation homes. You'd pay as an individual a fee to be in this club, and then you could have access to these homes. And the founder came to the conclusion, the money is not in owning the home and trying to get upside from the equity. It's to aggregate all the homes in one place so that consumers can shop and do vacation rentals. So again, the TAM and the tech evolved, but the founder did not. And if you were to ask Phil, who led that deal, I'm sure he would say it was my confidence in the founder. Okay, I've got one more deal that I'll share with you that's really interesting, I think. This one, actually, I was the CEO of. So I stopped being a VC, went into the operative side, and then later went back into VC.
Okay, so you took a pit stop for this one.
I took a pit stop. It was funny. My mom was living at the time. She was so worried because she just thought I couldn't keep a job. It's like, no, Mom, it's okay. We sell the companies. I get paid. It's okay. Oh, but you want to have a job. I don't need a job. We're okay. I had to always explain to her that it wasn't that I couldn't keep a job. So I went into a company called Gazzang, and we then raised money immediately and started to grow very, very quickly. And then the market fell out from under us. It was classic crossing the chasm. We were doing fine, and then we weren't. And it turned out that we didn't really pivot. We just sort of adjusted. So we had security software to secure database, and that we were focused singularly on the MySQL database. And the market just stopped. We were like, what? Why are people not buying it? Long story short, come to find out, at that time, the big data engines were becoming popular, like Cassandra and like Hadoop, and these other open source big data stores. There's a whole period of time when big data was a new term and no one understood what that meant. Now it's default, but we simply listened to our customers and adjusted and extended the platform, to offer the same level of file level security for all of the newfangled next generation databases, none of which had very robust security. And then we were within a year acquired for a very nice multiple because we had this cross-platform capability. And the reason I'm bringing up that story, Andrew, for your angels is the original TAM and tech was singularly focused at MySQL, and we thought that was going to be good enough, but it turned out it wasn't. But we as a team had the resiliency and the ability to modify the platform and the message to go chase something that was ancillary. It wasn't a total shift. It was a little bit on the side. So you want to understand the TAM, you want to understand the tech, but it was myself and my team, and I give my head of development all the credit, quite frankly, because all I did was ask him to extend it. So that was my contribution is you need to extend it. And we got 3 months. That was my contribution to the decision. And then the dev team did it and was phenomenal. And that got us exited at a 14x multiple. So it all worked out.
I'm curious from that experience at Gazzang specifically, taking a few years out of VC and then coming back into the VC role, what are a couple of lessons or takeaways? Like when you look at that season, coming back into VC, what changed in your approach to investing thanks to those few years?
First of all, I like VCs that have somebody on the team with some operational experience. Because it's just more valuable with the feedback they give you, because it doesn't help a lot when you're sitting around the board table and a VC says, well, I think we need to increase revenue and decrease expenses. Oh, really? Thank you. I'm going to write that one down. Brilliant. Like, okay, how? Finish the sentence. But so I like, I gravitate toward VCs that on the team has some operational experience. What I learned and how I operated differently, I guess there was a lot of things, but let me just give you a nugget or two. I shifted as an operator to understand that in the VC's mind, there are a set of objectives for that round, and they want you to singly focus on the set of the objectives to get to the next round and to not get ahead of the headlights and try to build the next great, fantastic software company. It's do the milestones that get us to Series A. Then when we get it, get rid of all the things you were working on. Stop. What do we need to do to get the B? And that's what you're focused on. Build the company to focus on the B. When we get to the C and beyond, then we're going to worry about EBITDA positive, profitability, sustainability. But for an angel or a series seed investor to ask a company about cost of customer acquisition or renewal rate is ridiculous. Those aren't metrics for that early stage. Early stage is get customers, prove product market fit. The seed round is to help you get closer on product market fit. The A is to lock that in. And then after the A, B, and C, D is to build business around that that's sustainable. And so that was new to me after being a VC, becoming an operator. When I'm talking about one day when we do such and such, they're like, no. And I'm going to be, to make my point, I'm going to be a little bit more flamboyant than actually happened. But as a Series A CEO in the board, we never talked about EBITDA. It never came up. It did not. That was not important for the B. It's top line. What is your annual recurring revenue, ARR? This is the ARR bandwidth you need to get to on your seed money, on your Series A money, and lose money on every deal. That's okay. That's okay. So it got me in tune with the way VCs think, as VCs see growing companies in step functions with the round funding something specific. The Series A round is not getting SpaceX to Mars. It's getting the ability for those legs to come out, not even land, just come out, explode. Series B, we now want the legs to come out and it to land without exploding. Got it. Series C, now we want to do it and take something to orbit. So if they had been focused on all the things out there in the future, those are important, and a good CEO has the vision and gets the employees on board with the vision. But operationally, um, please, angels, don't demand that your seed check gets them to profitability. Too much to ask for a tech startup.
Super helpful. Okay, so tell me about this crazy deal that you passed on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I said I would. A little bit of a setup. So I'm at a restaurant with my wife, and I saw a VC over at a table that I know. Hey, come on over. And I walked over, and he was having dinner with a founder, and my wife's standing there, and I'm being polite because she doesn't like me to dive too deep. And then it's just like, really? Can you do that tomorrow? So, we're chatting and goes, "Oh, you need to meet this guy. You got to hear this deal. It's amazing. You got to do it." And I said, "Well, can you tell me about it?" He goes, "No, let me get on your schedule and we'll do that later." I said, "Okay, fine." So a week or two goes by. I get on the schedule. I get on the call, and they start out. The head slide is using CRISPR technology. We are going to recreate the woolly mammoth because we have got DNA from a woolly mammoth out of the tundra, and we're going to put it inside of a pregnant elephant, an African elephant female, and we're going to bring back to Earth the woolly mammoth. And then the next slide is they were going to do the same thing for the saber-toothed tiger. And what's going through my mind is, this is a joke. My buddies have set me up for this. And all that's going through my head is, have you not seen Jurassic Park? What? And then, by the way, is there a big market for woolly mammoths? Is the meat good? Are we going to kill them? You're going to create it, and we're going to eat them? This is what's going through my mind. I was polite, and I'm listening. And I literally was 6 slides in before I finally stopped him. I said, "You're serious, aren't you?" Because I'm dead serious. I said, "This isn't a joke. This is not a joke." And I said, "Okay, what's the end game? Are you going to sell them to Disney World and have these woolly mammoths walk around?" He goes, "No. We are going to use the CRISPR technology to attack genetic diseases like hemophilia, Parkinson's, blah, blah, blah. And we've determined that if we can prove we can edit genes to bring back an extinct animal, then investors will believe we have the ability to edit genes to kill these, to change the course of these diseases. Noble cause." We did not invest because I felt they had way too much attention on the woolly mammoth, but it was crazy. I literally, for the first 6 slides, thought it was a joke. And I was just keeping my mouth shut, like, and the questions just write themselves. What if it gets out? What if the tiger eats the elephant? What if, you could just, so this is what's going through my mind, but it was a serious pitch, but it was crazy. I've never seen anything crazy. We passed. They since have raised a ton of money. They've focused less on the woolly mammoth and now more focused on the disease. And I'm sure they'll have success. And but that's got to be the craziest. And we're going to recreate the woolly mammoth. It's like, wow. Okay. So that was the zaniest one.
Amazing. Well, maybe in a few more years.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, they may end up again. If I was perfect at this stuff, I'd own Lanai Island, not Larry Ellison. So you win some, you lose some, but there's some really interesting ones. And that kind of takes me to something, because you and I had, when we chatted a little bit about this a while back. So I know you haven't asked me yet, but I'm going to go there because I want to make sure it gets in.
Please.
This video. There's some VC investment trends right now, and some of them surprise me, but in a good way. And I wanted to share with you what those were. So things come in and out of style with VCs, and angels should understand that. Take some time to do the research, from NBCA or whatever it's called, to see what categories are in getting investments. Because as an angel investor, a VC most typically going to have to come behind you and get excited about the market space. So, Wayne Gretzky, skate to where the puck's going to be. That's his secret to success, is look at where the trend lines are going of VC investing in what industries. And those are good industries to jump into for an angel. And don't be behind the wave. Like, for instance, right now, AI. Well, AI platform investing is pretty much over. That was about 5 or 6 years ago. It's now application of AI engines, platforms, LLMs, large language models, to a very specific business problem in a vertical. That's hot right now.
Hmm.
So if you find AI applied to a specific line of business or a vertical with people on the team that have a deep understanding of that vertical, that is a good area and it's trending. If it's just a generic AI platform, it's like, good luck. You're competing with Microsoft and Google, OpenAI. The platform play has been taken out. You should have done that 6 years ago. Another thing that's interesting to me, and I wouldn't have forecasted even 8 years ago, is hardware is hot again. Silicon chips, silicon, fabless semicon are getting investment, and that's singularly because of NVIDIA. NVIDIA is now more valuable than Apple. I think I read that this week. And they're going to acquire a ton of stuff. And remember, VCs know most exits are acquisition, not IPOs. So you've got AI driving a chipset called a GPU, which is a graphic processing unit, which is basically an ancillary chip to the CPU that helps with other processing. And it just so happens it's very, very good at inference and probability and doing things like AI. Okay. But that's not what it was designed to do. It was for a game box. The GPU from NVIDIA was to paint real-time better color graphics on the screen so the CPU wasn't dragged down with image presentation and pixel management for video games. When they came out in 2001, it was a chip for gaming consoles. So it evolved. Well, now, because there's this whole new category of chipsets, and they still call them GPUs, although they're not doing graphics, the name is just stuck for whatever reason. There's this whole new set of chips that are being built that are purpose-built for very specific things, doing AI processing on a mobile, doing AI processing in the cloud, whatever it happens to be. So hardware it is back, and surprised me. You used to be able to invest in hardware. It used to be, don't do it.
When you say hardware, what I'm hearing you say is the physical element that enable AI scale.
Yes, that's one. So silicon chips that enable AI or silicon platforms, because you stack a bunch of GPUs together, they generate a huge amount of heat. How are you going to heat it? But then all the downstream hardware that comes from that. So I just visited a company last week that is working on microreactors to provide atomic energy for data centers. And it has VC funding. If you had told me 8 years ago that you could go raise VC funding to build a reactor about the size of a small car that will go on the corner of a data center with a uranium-powered unit where you refuel it once every 25 years, kind of like an atomic sub. It uses the same technology that are in research reactors on every university. I'm an Aggie as you are. A lot of the students don't know there's a reactor on campus. It's right next to the water tower. And it's been there since I was there, so a very long time. So this technology that's used in research reactors is the same fundamental technology, so it's very safe. It's on the campus at TCU. There's a reactor in Fort Worth. There's a reactor in Houston. There's a reactor in College Station. They've been there for 20 years. So, but if you had told me that would happen. So what's interesting is these reactors, Microsoft just bought 3 Mile Island to bring 2024 technology to reopen it. Okay. It's because of the data center, because of AI. So you can look at the chain of how the decisions are going to be made. And then finally on that, the other one that is a surprise to me, but I'm excited about it, is advanced manufacturing for defense and aerospace. Again, 10 years ago, you wouldn't see that. But here in Austin, there's a company that's making an autonomous boat. It's smaller than a ski boat, and it's for the Navy. I have an investment in Venus Aerospace out of Houston, which is making a rocket engine that potentially can go Mach 8 and 9. The Starfish space is a tug that orbits. And all of these companies are manufacturing their stuff. They're buying lathes and welders and, advanced at manufacturing. And that's the future of manufacturing in the US, not stamping out rubber ducks, 10,000 units per day. China can keep that. But this advanced manufacturing, highly skilled, it's going to create a lot of jobs. It's going to bring a lot of business back to the US, and VCs are on board. And that's surprising to me. So, these companies are raising venture capital money to build highly specialized manufacturing facilities for defense purposes. Defense is popular because, we've got 2 wars going on right now. People are like, oh, you mean war's not over? I think we might have wars with us for the rest of humankind, but now it's top of mind, so it's getting money. So I'm starting to ramble, but those categories are back. And let me message that back to your angel viewers here. Spend the time to research what are the hot categories over the last quarter and compare that to 2 or 3 quarters before to try to get some trends of what VCs are interested in. And when you make your angel investment, get in front of them. So you want to get hit by a train? Lay on the track. Where are they going? Where is the venture community going? That's the track you should get on.
Well, Larry, any final thoughts or comments? I know we covered a lot, but any other comments?
Yeah. Okay. Some of your angels are also going to have the opportunity to invest as an LP in a fund. Okay. And a lot of funds, guilty as charged, talk about a metric called MOIC, multiple on invested capital. It's a good metric. The real metric you should look at is DPI, which is distributions to paid in. That shows that what you've invested in is actually coming back distributed, after the carry and everything else, and that those funds have a track record of returning actual capital to the investors. Young funds won't have a DPI number yet, but the LPs should ask for those investors' track record. What did they do before? Well, they've never been a VC. Really? What'd you do? Well, I mowed lawns. Not sure. Not sure I'm going to be an LP in your fund. Although there's nothing wrong with, I've got a neighbor 2 doors down that is a multimillionaire because he owns a lawn care company. So there's nothing wrong with lawn care, but I don't know if the relationship to VC is there. So look at DPI. Also, kind of the dirty little secret of venture, most all of the returns you read about is in the top quartile or top 2 quartiles of performance. If you add in the bottom 2 quartiles of venture, it doesn't beat the S&P. It just doesn't. So, and then if you look at the S&P, the index funds tend to perform as well, if not better, as the individual pick. Okay. So if you're going to invest in a fund, you want to make sure that fund's track record is they've been in the top 2 quartiles of the past performance. And if they don't have those numbers yet, wait. Don't take the risk. Continue to do angel investing. But be aware of that. That's the venture capital industry is amazing. 16% and north annualized return for the top quartile. So do your research before you invest in a venture fund. And I think that's it.
Larry, I think we can wrap there. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today.
Cool. Andrew, love what you're doing. Keep it up. Valuable asset for angels out there.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Diligent Observer. I'm your host, Andrew, and if you're an angel investor looking for essential angel intel in 5 minutes every week, I think you'd enjoy my newsletter. I send my best stuff, interesting deals, and more straight to your inbox so you never miss a thing. Subscribe today at thediligentobserver.com.